Scott, hey, congratulations for fall.
Thank you.
You have no idea how scared I was just watching the trailer alone. And then the opportunity to watch the film,
Yep.
it's even more terrifying. So, you know what? All kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I'm glad it made you feel that way. That's the truth.
I know. Just the trailer alone, I was telling somebody I think I had to change underwears after just the trailer.
Can we put that in the poster?
There you go. So Scott, tell us what originated, this concept, this story for this really terrifying movie.
So I think well, what originated really was trying to find an original experience, I suppose, right? And it's got kind of a horror root in a way, in terms of being kind of contained and thrilling, and having that conceit of something that hadn't really been done before. Like, I'd seen height work. I'm scared of heights as it is, and I'd seen height work in a couple of other films, a couple of sequences, but never really a film that kind of made it its central focus and explored it from the kind of life and death aspect. So it was really to tap into that world and explore it fully, and just look at the palette of things you can do at height, with height, as a story element, but visually, spectacularly, and emotionally, and experience wise, how much you can kind of pull through that. So it was very much it was very much came from a personal place of fear of heights, but it kind of developed into this more kind of this more of a central kind of story idea, I suppose.
Well, tell me this: are there actually radio TV towers even that high? Because that must be a mile up there.
It's 2,067 feet, I believe, is the actual measurement. And yes, it's there are a bunch of them. And when we came across it, because our first notion with Jono and I, we were saying, look, where do we set something at height like this? And we'd kind of been inspired a bunch of times with things like there was certain like YouTube videos and things of people hanging off rooftops, and it was like, oh God, don't do that. And that kind of feeling kind of drove us in different directions. And we were like, what's the ultimate location for the ultimate version of the movie? And we looked around, and we kind of did a bunch of research, and came across these crazy towers in the middle of the desert that essentially bounce television signal from, across the United States. And there's a lot of them. And when you see them, I went and drove out and saw one. I couldn't believe it, because it's just like a needle that sticks all the way up. And the one we kind of based the whole film around was the one in Arizona. And we didn't film on that one. But we did get the guys who built that one to build our tower and do it in the way we did it. So we kind of, it's all based on a real tower that really goes up that high. So it's a bit nutty.
Well, I know I had a previous interview with your actors, and they told me that this was a practical filming, not CGI, because this entire time I thought it was like a CGI in some green screen room, and I was like, how did Scott do that?
Yeah. I tell you what, to be honest, if it was pulled off that way, I think it would be a VFX Oscar going on, because it's very hard to do that. I think, I think you had a choice at the start of it, right? You could shoot it that way, but the truth is, to do that right, and to do that at the scale of this, you were talking about like a $50-100 million movie. And the truth is that an original movie of this scale and size of idea does not get made today. Do you know what I mean? Not unless it's the Avengers are sat at the top of the tower or something, right? So to work this, we went the opposite way, and we kind of trimmed down the team and had a very minimalist approach to film it for real. How do you film it for real at height? And it became more about the journey and the adventure to finding the right location, building it at the top of essentially the edge of a cliff, and filming it from that height, above the clouds, was really how we kind of captured it and managed to get that caught on camera.
So tell me, so you built, as your actors told me, you built some kind of like production set 100 feet up in the air, which is still terrifying, because 100 feet you can still get hurt.
Yeah, we built two. So we had a base of desert, the flat desert you see in the movie there, right? And we built the start of the climb, the cage tower. That was about 100 feet up, and we would use that to climb up and down and do the opening of the movie, right? And then you have like a set extension when you're looking right up, which kind of goes further. But then we went up this mountain. We found the location was very hard to find, but we managed to find this location that had this very steep kind of wind up this thing called Shadow Mountain, and it had this very steep drop off, like a cliff edge. And at the top there, we built another 100 foot of tower, which is the top of the tower that you see there. And that is where the girls kind of climbed up and based, so that all the filming from kind of all the angles, but kind of looking straight down when you start seeing the ground, are all at that height, which is why they really were at that height, and why it feels real, because it is real, really.
So what were the challenges of this camera work that you have to deal with? Was it just a lot of drones, or actual cameras?
No, right. I tell you, one of the biggest challenges. Well, one, we shot it for IMAX, so we're shooting large formats. That's just slightly, slight extra kind of things to consider. But the hardest thing was the wind was a huge element. Like we slung up, to get the tower up there in the first instance was a challenge. It was like, the boat of a mountain type thing. It was very difficult to logistically get everything on the top of this mountain built out. It just, from an engineering point of view, it's hard. And then getting a techno crane, like getting this very long techno crane up there. I remember we spent 2 days building the thing, and then we kind of swing it up to kind of film at the top. And as soon as we swing it up, the wind just like knocked the camera off the techno crane. Like, it was so windy up there, it made it very difficult to operate. So what amounted to was really practically finding a way to cover the movie. And what we found, and what I learned, honestly, was like, I originally thought, I'll do this because I've got them up there for real, and it's the real girls doing this real stuff. I'll have these real elaborate kind of techno crane movements and all this nonsense. And that was quickly, God quickly told me not to by throwing all the elements at me. And basically it ended up being much more pure and point of view in terms of like filming it for where the camera should have been, not just looking at the spectacle. It was kind of get in the spectacle. So that kind of formed a kind of film grammar during the filming. It kind of forced us into that perspective that I'm now really grateful for, because we quickly learned that was the way to kind of really put the audience through this ride,
Well, tell me about this movie Magic, because, as expected, something has to fall from great heights. And I don't want to reveal what fell, but what camera did you have to sacrifice, or is that something?
Good question. No, you know what's funny about that? And I know what you're talking about. We had to put the camera on a rig. The hardest bit of that was putting on a rig so it didn't smash the camera. So when we did that, it was a case of, we had to have a special, like, we had these incredible riggers. Like, the stunt team was incredible anyway. Like, Ingrid, Alice, and Alice just nailed it. Jennifer, they did a great job. But we had the riggers who had done the Mission Dubai climb. So they like really knew how to kind of rig up and safety wire everything in a great way. And they built a rig for the camera like an actor, so that it was able to go all the way down and descend and then kind of stop it before it smashed into many pieces. So it was things like that where you had to kind of engineer things to work. And again, like, I think it helps to have like an intimate filmmaking environment for that stuff, because that could extrapolate into kind of craziness in a studio world. And our advantage was there was nothing, it was just us on the tip of the mountain to do this stuff, and you just get to it, don't you? So it was to our advantage that we were in that environment, really.
Now, I understand this was filmed during the pandemic. How did you find the two right actresses for your film, and how did you get them prepared both physically and mentally for something?
I think they're still recovering mentally, so I don't think we fully prepared. They're still traumatized, they'll say. They basically, I went through quite a process, like on Zoom, meeting a bunch of actors, and I found that a lot of actors kind of might sometimes exaggerate for what they are, what they've done in the past and what they're comfortable with, let's just say. So I showed them I had like just a drawings of the cliff edge and the tower construction and everything, and I showed them what we were doing, and quickly I kind of filtered through who was bullshitting me and who wasn't going to make the grade, as it were. So I went through that process, and then it was a case of doing kind of chemistry tests and things, but with Ginny and Grace, I kind of knew early on they were favorites there, because they are in a way they are both sides of those characters, and when they did their chemistry test, it was the first time this script that, you know, we kind of put down came to full life, and just they were the characters. There were no longer words on the page. It was just them. And again, did it on Zoom. So it's hard to do Zoom. It's hard to act on Zoom. It's hard to direct on Zoom, the rest of it. But did that. And then I guess what kind of, in terms of directing them, because they were at height, it was very hard when we were shooting to communicate. And so what we did is we had a little kind of mocked up. I got some kind of wood and just put it on a table with a pole in my yard, and had Ginny and Grace come over, and we just worked through the film in a more intimate space so that we could work everything out. And then we had a frame for reference for when we went up the mountain and shot it for real. So it was a process, but it was a great process, and they so wonderful, and then went even further, then went for it and did all those stunts and all the nonsense. So they kind of, the fact they did, like, they were excellent as it was, and they carried the movie, and what a weight to carry. But then the fact that they kind of went further with it is just like, it's just the cherry on top of a wonderful cake.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you filmed this on IMAX camera. So the intention for this movie was always on the big screen, always in the theater, even though it was during pandemic. You had no intention to watch it.
Well, you know, the intention, like whether the global distribution network agrees with me or not is another thing. But yeah, no, it was, and we shot it actually. I sent someone earlier. We had these, Mac McGregor, who did the DP. He brought along these VR goggles so that when we're looking at the film, rather than looking on a little monitor, we put them on and we'd be able to sit in an IMAX theater and look at it, how it looks like, and that really informed how you shoot it, and how you look at it. So it was always that encapsulated idea of kind of immersed experience, it's really just like, I would look at it like, what can a cinema do? You know what I mean? Push it to its extreme, like with the sound and the vision, like what kind of experience can you bring? And a good example is Top Gun does it, nails it, right? Like Top Gun as an experience is very, you know, lives in a similar world where it's obviously a much more expensive kind of studio version of it, but I think from it's literally kind of putting you through an experience and putting you through a ride and putting you front and center in that point of view of a real thing. It's got those similarities, and I think that's what we wanted to kind of push, is really like the experience of cinema and get back to why we go, you know, and why we enjoy it together.
Yeah, I don't know. Great heights, deep oceans, all these things scare me now. I don't even know if I want to.
I'm sorry for making life worse. No, it's just, you know, the lesson should be learned. Just never climb a 2,000-foot tower in the middle of the desert. That's a life lesson.
Well, let me do one more last question before I let you go, because I saw your filmography. There is something called a hashtag tsunami. So I have no idea how you're going to top Fall, but apparently that already sounds terrifying to you. Why do you love these types of movies?
I think, I guess I love, I guess it's like all movies. Like, I think if at the core is something you can explore life and death, right? Or life in general. I think that's why we do movies. Let's be honest. Like, a lot of people are easy to kind of dismiss movies as not art, but art really is the exploration of human beings and how we do it. And for me, it's like an internal, external exploration. And then hopefully for the audience, that's a sharing thing, right? So I think from a story's point of view, I think that, life it's, you know, like the central theme of the thing, like life's for living, right? So you find kind of disastrous events and disastrous moments kind of can fit well into that. So, but we'll see. We'll see what's next. But I think I'm just drawn to things like that, because it's what feel, you know, it's what's important, in my mind at least, right?
Oh, most excellent. Well, hey, Scott, thank you for speaking to us about Fall, and I recommend everyone to check this out on the big screen. And
on the biggest screen possible, right?
and bring an extra pair of underwears just in case.
That's brilliant. All right, excellent. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Cheers, mate.